It's finally over. I never have to run away from a Disney Channel cartoon with a 13-year-old Thai American girl protagonist who befriends a guy whose name starts with an S and had a finale that everyone loved but I hated. Oh, wait a second! The Ghost and Molly McGee. This was the first show where I was there watching every episode as it came out, from the premiere of episode 1 right up until the finale. I mean, technically streaming shows like Dead End Paranormal Park should count for that, but dropping a whole season at once doesn't count, so shut up. The oldest public video on my channel is about this show. The oldest video period on my channel was a review of the first episode. I praised the show constantly back in the day. I did a character ranking, I did a song ranking, I did a defense of one of its characters, I did a video dedicated to reviewing the first season, but then I just kinda stopped talking about it. So, what happened? Well, I actually did have a review of season 2, fully scripted, recorded, edited, and uploaded not long after it had ended. But I guess I must have let a clip play too long, and it got blocked by YouTube's copyright bots. Normally in this situation, I would just re-edit the video, but I decided, no, I can't be bothered. I don't want to think about this show anymore, which was genuinely an insane feeling to me. In the weeks before, I was re-watching this show and I was really loving it still. Like, to the point where I was genuinely considering attempting to recreate the entire town of Brighton in Minecraft. I was obsessed with this show, and then the finale just killed all my love instantly. But it's been quite a while, and after my opinions on Amphibious finale went way up on my recent rewatch, maybe something similar will happen with this show. Today, I'm going to be taking a proper look back at The Ghost and Molly McGee to see if I can revive my love of it.
The Ghost and Molly McGee!
So where to begin? Well, obviously I got to start with Molly herself. She is amazing. The thing is, she doesn't really have that much of a character arc. She obviously isn't perfect, and there's plenty of episodes that delve into her more flawed side, like Mazel Tov Libby. But over the course of the show, she stays pretty much the exact same person. And that isn't a bad thing. Molly is a very stagnant character. What makes her so engaging isn't the way that she changes, but the way she changes others. From Libby, to Andrea, to random townsfolk in Brighton, to the titular ghost himself, Scratch. These two make such a perfect duo. Two people with such vastly different personalities, yet they're able to become best friends. And it just works. Mostly because of Molly's stubbornness on not giving up on trying to inhabify everyone and everything. This plays really well into the show's message of joy being more powerful than anything. A big reason why I love them so much is the performances from Ashley Burch and Dana Snyder. The whole cast of the show is great, but these two are especially fantastic. They feel so real. An overlooked aspect of voice acting is more subtle elements. Usually when people talk about great voice acting, or even just acting in general, they tend to focus on the super emotional scenes that demand attention from the audience. But I think scenes of a basic conversation are just as important. The way an actor delivers even a simple line can tell you a lot about their character. Listen to the voice Dana Snyder gives Scratch in a basic conversation with Molly at the start of season 1 compared to the end of season 1.
I'm quite partial to tacos and strawberry soda.
You got it, Scratch. 2 tacos coming up. What you want in those bad boys?
Surprise me. Hey, so who's hungry, huh? You're not feeling like nachos with extra cheese. And not the kind you just heat in the microwave.
And while I'm talking about voice acting, this is a great time to start talking about the songs in the show. I forgot how much I love them. I don't really feel like ranking them all because that would take way too long, but I did want to bring up some of my favorites. Obviously the theme song itself is great, but so are Just Give.
Just give whatever you got. It doesn't need to be a lot, but we'd prefer if it's a lot.
It's a lose-lose.
She's loving and she's thoughtful. I can't bear to see her go.
Aw, maybe it's best best if I send her a text.
Scratch! Get away from that phone!
Christmas in Brighton.
There will be Christmas in Brighton after all. We're stringing lights up, protecting every hall. Every hall.
In Happify.
I can change the world. I can make it better if I try. All I ever want to do is in Happify. In Happify.
Everything is totally normal.
Diorama Club, come on, we gotta run! What a perfect little house. This is so much fun.
Ghosts aren't the enemy.
Let the dead live in peace. Ghosts aren't the enemy.
This house is haunted.
House in Brighton, showing up to frighten, partying all night. This house is haunted.
This is Brighton's year.
We'll destroy 'em.
We'll defeat 'em.
What a joy to finally beat 'em.
And back to misery.
Back to the ways of the OTC. We're going back, 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 back to misery.
You may have noticed a pattern. With the exception of This House is Haunted, all of them were songs being sung by the characters themselves. I don't dislike songs that are sung by a disembodied voice, but I will always take songs being sung by the characters themselves, even if the characters aren't singing on screen, like in Just Give, for example. You probably also noticed that most of my favorite songs were sung by Molly herself. Ashley Burch is an insanely good singer, and it reaffirmed my belief that when Lars of the Stars comes out, the Rutal twins have got to be singing all the time because, wow. I don't think there's a single bad performance in the show, both in terms of voice acting and singing. The only bad singing really is from Libby in Talent Show, but that was the point. Which then gets ignored later in season 2 where she can suddenly sing really well. What happened there? I'm not complaining, I just find it weird that the show just forgot that she can't sing to save her life. Scratch of course is the second most prominent singer after Molly, and while I definitely prefer Molly's songs, I still get a lot of fun out of songs like Deep Fried Food and Enjoy Your Afterlife. One character who really should have sung more though is Daryl. Him never getting his own song besides a non-canon theme song takeover wasn't a big deal to me back then, but then I watched Steven Universe. I would say that maybe the specific voice Michaela Dietz gives Daryl didn't suit itself to singing very much, but I can't say that because his theme song takeover proves that not to be the case. So that's a bit disappointing. Something I'm a bit mixed on is the frequency on the songs. On paper, getting a new song every episode sounds great, and the songs never feel samey since they have a lot of variation in terms of genre, like synthwave, K-pop, country, sea shanties, and more. I just think that if there were less songs, more work could have been put into making the remaining songs even better. Also, why does Innocent Until Proven Ghostly have no song? It's the only episode that doesn't have a song, and it's bugged me ever since that episode came out. This show is very funny. I don't really have much to say here. The comedy in the show kinda speaks for itself. The show has a great sense of comedic timing.
Well, 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 would you look at that? He's not here. Humph.
Most of the comedy doesn't even come from actual written jokes. It comes from the personality of the characters, the voice performances, and the animation, especially the facial expressions.
But we have to spend the day outside. That's what snow days are about. Or maybe we just spend the day doing hygge instead? Hygge what now?
It of course still has plenty of actual jokes and running gags. Everyone loves to talk about how often birds die in the show, but my favorite running gag has got to be characters in the background just flipping over and destroying vehicles. Another one of the funniest parts of the show to me is when Greta Gerwig just shows up. Like, it's not even really presented like a joke. It's just, oh, here's real-life movie director Greta Gerwig playing herself.
Hi, I'm Greta Gerwig.
The fact that it's actually her playing herself and that it's treated so normally are what make it so funny. I don't think it would have hit as hard if it was just someone doing a Greta Gerwig impression. Staying on Hooray for Mollywood, this episode in particular speaks to me personally. I know my channel is all about animation, but I've always had a love for the art of filmmaking in general. This episode brings me back to my time making short films in my high school media class, or making my own home movies. This is what the Ghost of Molly McGee does best in my opinion. Feeling very real despite the supernatural element in the room. Things like the ways the adult characters interact feel very natural, like how Pete and Sharon have these sort of playful little arguments.
Do I have a rock and roll personality?
Oh, Cobb, no. But that's why I married you.
Or how the teachers are shown getting into arguments, which flesh them out as real people instead of just generic stand-ins to be there for Molly to be in a school setting. The other two big Disney Channel shows airing at the time, The Owl House and Amphibia, while I personally prefer both of them overall, I love that this is a much more grounded show when compared to them. I think I mentioned this in that really old video from years ago, but watching this alongside those shows was really refreshing. They had these big dramatic stories and character arcs, and then here's a show where outside of the finale, the stakes are deeply relatable situations like having the confidence to perform in front of a crowd, getting a passing grade, finding out who stole a cake, or going homeless because the bank repossessed your home after you couldn't afford to pay the mortgage since you had to spend every last dollar paying off an insanely high medical bill. Yeah, Out of House and Home is Where the Haunt Is are a great two-parter, but they only hit as hard as they do due to what comes before. So now we need to ramble a little bit, going through the events of season 1, and how they come together to make something greater than the sum of their parts. Now unfortunately, I do have a few nitpicks to mention from the start of the show. The first one being that Scratch never tells Molly his name. They meet, Together Forever plays, and then she just starts calling him by name all of a sudden. My other early nitpick is how Kat and Sheila seem like they were being set up to be important side characters, and then they just aren't. Again, these are just nitpicks, but I think they're important to mention, especially that first bit. When the show is about a friendship, you'd think both characters properly introducing themselves would be a pretty important moment, but we don't really get that. But even if the start of Molly and Scratch's relationship could have been better written, for the rest of the show, it's really good. I really like the pacing of Scratch's arc in season 1. The seeds are planted in First Day Frights when we learn that he does have some empathy. Then in The Unnatural, he helps Molly simply because he wants to be the one tormenting her, and he only hugs her when she agrees to let him be a cheater. And then he begins to realize that he does in fact care about her. So he tries to fight his urges, and when he does help her, he hides behind excuses.
Is it because we're friends?
No, it's not Listen, if somebody's gonna crush your spirit, it's gonna be me!
Then we start to learn more about why he's so grumpy and how that affects his view of her. At this point, he's actually able to be open about his true feelings, but not when she's around. And right around the time he's able to be more open about himself, the misery in Brighton starts to drop. Now that he's starting to be more open, he's more willing to openly consider Molly his friend. And once his miracle is revealed, which he wrote thinking nobody would see, meaning he wrote down his pure, unfiltered thoughts, there's really no point in hiding those feelings anymore. After Festival of Lights, he is significantly more open about his feelings. He shows real, genuine care for Molly. The Unnatural had him helping Molly because he wanted to be the one tormenting her. Saving Christmas had him helping her because he was mad at Mr. Davenport ruining Christmas for her. He had nothing to gain personally from this. In fact, it would benefit him to not help Molly here, because that would keep the misery levels down. But he did it because deep down, he's a nice person. Then, throughout the second half of season 1, he's just nice. This leads to the show having a bunch of episodes with the characters just living normally with a Scratch who isn't an asshole. It helps us get more attached to the bond he and the McGees have, which makes them being separated in Out of House and Home hit as hard as it does. But there's something else that really makes that ending impactful. Something I didn't fully realize until this rewatch. Throughout the season, we have seen Molly and Scratch grow closer and closer. But there's something else we've seen quite a lot.
The Ghost and Molly McGee!
This title drop has been blasted in your face 33 times in the exact same way, with only one instance of it being a little bit different. And if you want to count the end of the theme song, that number jumps to 49. So the whole time you're watching the show, you get hit over and over again with
The Ghost and Molly McGee. 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 The Ghost and The Ghost and Molly McGee.
That constant repetition creates a feeling of normalcy. It creates a feeling of safety. This is how the episodes are supposed to end. You have no reason to think anything bad could happen. Just like the McGees, they paid the bill. Everything is totally normal. And then...
The Ghost and Molly.
What are you doing in our yard?
That sudden shock really helps you feel what the McGees are feeling right now, and it's only as effective as it is because of how the show has built up your expectations for how these episodes are meant to end before turning those expectations on their head. And the episodes themselves are just really good. Like I said, Scratch's main arc this season was basically over by Festival of Lights, and this episode mainly exists to really explicitly show that growth. Then Home is Where the Haunt Is shifts the focus from the McGee's effect on Scratch to their effect on Brighton. I really like that the good deeds that the McGees have done for Brighton that are shown aren't limited to just the big things like getting the band shell rebuilt or saving Christmas. Even the little things like helping out at a retirement home or just spreading little bits of joy here and there are treated with the importance they deserve. Because yes, even little things like this can have a great positive impact on people. Joy spreads exponentially. Molly spreads a little bit of joy to Libby, which then spreads to Leah, which then spreads to all her customers. Spreading joy to just one person may seem small, but it can grow into something amazing, which perfectly segues into the finale where Molly is able to use a tiny bit of joy to completely smash open the flow of failed phantoms and murder the chairman. Does it count as murder if he's a ghost? He's already dead, but now he's like double dead. I wish I had more to say about the Jig Is Up and Molly vs. the Ghost World, but I just don't. I really like them, but Out of House and Home and Home is Where the Haunt Is just felt like the real conclusion to the season, and this was just clearing up a few leftovers. But hey, it did give us Jinx, who's a really fun character. She probably has my favorite design of any of the ghost characters. The character design this show overall is really good. One detail I love is how imperfect the character's hair is. Most of them have these little bits of hair that stick out, because of course their hair wouldn't be perfectly flat. And this little design quirk shows the difference between characters. Despite having a similar hairstyle to characters with this trait, Andrea doesn't have it, because she's a rich girl who probably uses a bunch of hair products. Moving on to Season 2, I think the Chens were the perfect idea to build upon what Season 1 gave us. Compared to Season 1's primary antagonist, they, as well as Jinx, are actual characters, introducing a new set of human characters who know about ghosts but have a completely different view on them is very interesting. And I like that once Ollie learns about Scratch, he doesn't suddenly just stop being friends with Molly. He feels betrayed, but that friendship with Molly is still very important to him. He has a realistic reaction, especially when you take into account how he's been told to hate ghosts his entire life. I also think that he and Molly are just really cute together. Why does the show just forget that they started dating? I could look past Molly's ideal perfect day not involving him, since I'm pretty sure White Christmas and The Perfect Day are meant to take place before they got together, and it just got moved around in TV scheduling so it could actually air during Christmas. But why is the only mention of them being together after the grand gesture just this one short 4-second clip? Hey, Ruben, Esther, your son is dating a girl who is BFFs with a ghost. Do you have anything to say about that? This really annoys me because what was even the point of all that setup across the season if it was just gonna get ignored almost entirely? I want to go back to being positive, but I just remembered another thing I don't like about this season. Carbon Zero Heroes is not bad, but its message is kind of a bit flawed to me. I appreciate that it goes against the idea that random little things done by individuals can single-handedly stop climate change, but I don't like how it treats the solution as people simply working together. I really wish it didn't have a nice, happy ending. It reminds me of the ending to the Illumination Lorax movie, where everyone comes together to save the trees. Sure, that makes for a nice ending, but the book's ambiguous ending is far more effective at staying with children. If we're being real, the best solution would have been to have Scratch grab Mr. Davenport, throwing him way up high and letting him go splat.
Eat the rich!
Speaking of, I think Davenport's On Demand does a much better job at tackling a very real issue fueled by evil capitalists. This works better because it's more of a small-scale issue. Yes, companies like Amazon are worldwide, but the effects it has on small businesses are something that can be dealt with on a local level. Supporting local businesses will not bring down these mega corporations, but it can still help keep those local businesses in business. And that's still a good message to send to kids. Yeah, the solution does end up being a bit unrealistic, but it could also help to teach privileged kids like Andrea to use their privilege to help bring those less fortunate up. Andrea is a character I really wish we got more of. Episodes like Saving Christmas, The Don't Gooder, and Davenport's In Demise are great at showing her shitty home life and the expectations her parents put on her. But we don't really get to see much growth from her. At least, we don't see the process of that growth. She was a bully in her first episode, and then never again. She's just friends with Molly now. Yeah, she can still be kind of rude and arrogant, but she's mostly pretty chill. It's not that big of an issue, I guess. Her being friends with Molly and Libby was kind of needed for us to get a period piece, so that's nice. It's a shame I have to praise a show for discussing basic biology that about half its child audience would experience. But these days, conservative nutjobs will call you a pedophile for simply informing a child about their own body. It may be the bare fucking minimum, but considering the world we live in now, anything like this should be praised. 100% Molly McGee is another episode that tackles a very important topic. Plenty of kids shows cover the experiences of non-white people. This show was airing around the same time as Amphibia, another show with a specifically Thai lead. But the experiences of someone like Anne, who has 2 Thai parents, is going to be very different to someone like Molly, who only has 1 Thai parent. And representing very specific groups, in this case mixed race people, is always going to be a good thing. Now, as for representation for a group I'm actually part of, I think June is pretty good autism representation. She doesn't really get to do much in the show, but I like how she's treated. She has autism, but it's not really part of her character much. It does affect how she behaves, because of course it does, but she isn't defined by her autism. This kind of casual rep is just as important as characters whose stories revolve around their disability. And it's really great that she gets to explicitly say,
I'm autistic.
And now it's time for the part of the video where Edric goes rambling on about random bits he wanted to mention, but they didn't really relate to any of the larger aspects of the show he wanted to talk about, and this was the only way he could think to naturally fit them in. While she isn't the best character in the show, Libby is absolutely my favorite character in the show. When Daryl and Pete found all those centipedes, all I could think about was, damn, Ragatha would hate this. Molly is kind of stupid for actually believing that Jeff was the real Abraham Lincoln. Like, come on, Molly. Speaking of presidents, it's kind of depressing seeing all these horrifically evil men not burning in hell. Oh my god, look at all the bees! Kane would love this. Why did they establish that the power generator at the bookstore is only going to be able to last an hour, only for it to not last an hour? The Very Hungry Ghost is painful to watch because all these ghosts are just being the biggest assholes to Scratch. They had amethyst crystals in the scene and missed the opportunity to include Daryl in it. While rewatching the show, I saw this gravestone that says Ben Better, but for some reason I initially read it as Ben Stiller. And I know that's not an actual joke in the show, but I just wanted to mention it because I just find that really funny, the idea that there will just be a random gravestone for Ben Stiller. Scratch hates physical media.
Whoa, physical media? You heard of this new thing out called streaming?
Kill him again! Also kill this Matthias cunt. I hate him. I think more people need to acknowledge the fact that Molly straight up broke the fourth wall.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, you know, the people.
Okay.
You know, for a place called Necro Comic Con, I'm seeing a severe lack of comics. Not only can Molly break the fourth wall, but she can also fly! Why doesn't Daryl ask June to be on the esports team? Oh, look at that, Molly broke the fourth wall again. I analyzed the perfect day and came to the conclusion that Molly and Scratch went through 41 restarts at least. And now for the final 2 episodes. Jinx vs. the human world works really well as a season finale. The solution is basically the same as Molly vs. the Ghost World, but this time, the villain is an actual character. Making it an actual 22-minute episode instead of 2 11-minute ones also helps it feel much better structurally compared to the season 1 finale. It gives it the big scale a finale should have. I do think the way the Chen's plot got resolved is a little stupid. Like, Jeff being the ghost Ruben encountered as a kid is one hell of a coincidence. And having Jeff not actually mean to scare him just kind of takes away the nuance. It would have been better if Ruben and Esther changed their views on ghosts because of what they learned from Ollie and June, instead of finding out, oh, it was just a misunderstanding in the past. I definitely think this could have been done better. But overall, it's just really nice. And that's all this show really needs to be. Just something to spread joy and, well, inhabify. Alright, now it's time for the end. The episode that killed my love for the show. Why did I hate this episode so much when I first watched it? Well, there were 2 main reasons. First, I thought it was incredibly rushed and very poorly set up. And my second issue was that it was never marketed as the series finale. Back when this came out, we did not know that this would be the final episode of the show until we were watching it. And while that doesn't say anything about the quality of the episode itself, it definitely had a big impact on how I viewed it back then. But, just like I did with the hardest thing in Amphibia, I went into this with an open mind. And you know what? I thought it was okay. It is still incredibly flawed, but I don't hate it anymore. Let me start off with my issues. I still think it is insanely rushed. I am aware that this was not the original intention, and that there were plans for a season 3. But if you ask me, I think it would have been better if the show just ended with some loose threads, instead of cramming everything into this one final episode. But part of me still questions if this was even going to be the original ending if the show had continued on. Because apart from Scratch having a very similar face to Todd, and this one shot in All in Mind, Scratch being Todd is really not set up well at all. Previously, the only way we have seen a human become a Wraith has been by traveling through a ghost portal. But now, all of a sudden, we have this all-new, unestablished way of becoming a Wraith. Also, if you look at characters like Molly when she has no spirit inside her, you see how dark and drab her color palette is. Something that Todd just doesn't have. He does at least have that very drab kind of voice.
How can I bring you joy today?
Take my old junk.
Say thank you and come again.
I'm elated.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. So he's not voiced by Dana Snyder? Even though they're meant to be the same person? What's that about? It is kind of hard for me to look over a lot of these issues, but I can still acknowledge what it's trying to do. In a vacuum, that last scene with Scratch and Molly is really, really good and has a really nice message to give kids. It just sucks that the rest of the episode really drags that down. Like I said, I don't hate this episode anymore. I just think it's okay. I don't know, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. But I can say that my feelings towards the rest of the show have been restored to what they once were. I really like this show. Yeah, the finale is kind of the worst episode of the whole thing, but the worst episode of the show being a 6 out of 10, I think that's a pretty good show. And it doesn't take away from everything else I love about the show that I've talked about today. I don't really know how to end this. This doesn't feel the same as when I rewatched Amphibia. It's just, yeah, I don't hate this anymore, and that's about it really. It does feel really nice that I have finally done proper full reviews of the group of Disney TVA shows that got me to love cartoons again. Well, except Gravity Falls, but what the fuck am I supposed to say about that show? Everyone's already talked about it to death. I said all I could about that show when I timed how long it took its characters to touch grass. So, yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Sorry this took so long to come out. I kind of procrastinated a whole bunch, and Tomodachi Life Living the Dream coming out definitely did not help me with that at all. But my name's Dr. Lamington, like and subscribe to make me smile, and I will see you later.
Smash that like button and subscribe. The Ghost and Molly McGee.